The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Desi. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager here at Toon Boom. So today's webinar is entitled Discover the New Features in Storyboard Pro 6. It's a really exciting time for us at Toon Boom. We're going to be talking about what's new in this release, but we're also going to be talking about different features that we have and basically how they've evolved right now with version 6. We invite everybody to ask their questions in the questions section of GoToWebinar on the right-hand side of your toolbar. We'll get to your questions towards the end of the webinar. It's going to run for an hour. And within the last 15 to 20 minutes, we invite you all to ask your questions. Marc-Andre is our product manager. He has been with Toon Boom for many years and knows the software inside out, of course, and he will be giving this webinar today. He's going to go through the new features. He's going to answer your questions. He's going to show you some cool stuff. But before we get to that, we're just going to look at what we have available online for our users. We have an extensive web page and a documentation page as well. So if we go to our homepage, as you can see here, we've updated a lot of the content we have there. If you click on the Learn More button or the Storyboard Pro icon, you'll get to see what new features there are. Marc-Andre did something really neat in this release as well. He added short videos to explain what each new feature does. Now, of course, there's more than 6 to 7 features that we have laid out here, but these are the top features in this release. So we invite you to go watch those videos, ask us any questions you have. If we do miss the opportunity to answer your question during this webinar, you can always email Marc-Andre directly or webinars@toonboom.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So again, visit our resources, go to our documentations page, which is docs@toonboom.com, or go to our homepage. We also have an extensive Learn portal where you can take journeys and earn badges and really just understand Storyboard Pro to the best of your ability. So without any further delays, I'm introducing to you Marc-Andre, our fantastic product manager, who is going to show you the new features in Storyboard Pro 6.
All right, thank you very much, Desi, for the introduction, the great introduction, as always. So today, I'll be featuring the new version, Storyboard Pro 6, and the new features that make this release a really important release for us. Got some great new features. We have the ability to have more video tracks now in the timeline, so not just the panel track. We have the ability to have video tracks where you can import videos, or you can also import images to use backgrounds that span across multiple panels. We have as well the ability now to import 3D models into the scene, so render the 3D model directly to a 2D scene without having to convert your scene to a 3D scene. And we also have the new tool, the new textured vector brush engine that makes the brush look like there are bitmap brushes, so they give you a really natural feel. So let me just hide this here like that. Okay, let's start. So the first feature that I'm going to show you is really the one that has the most interesting one, which is possibility to import QuickTime movies or movies directly onto your project, into your timeline. I'm just going to open the proper project right here, not the retakes one. There we go. And now, for example, in here, I have a character that's skating across multiple panels, and I want to have a background, and I want to have a scrolling background. So what I would usually do is I would put the background in each panel, and then I would need to animate the background on each of those different individual panels. But that can be a little bit time consuming, and also if you need to adjust the timing, you will need to adjust the timing in each individual panels. So what you can do now is you can add video layers where I will be able to import an image or a background. So I have a new toolbar here. This toolbar is called the Clips and Tracks. It used to be called the, how did it used to be called this one? just the the sound toolbar. Now it's called clips and tracks. And from this toolbar, I can add either sound layers or video layers. So new video track. Now, when I add a video track, it adds the video track at the top. What I want to do is I want to move the video track down, because here I'm going to use a background. I want this to be composite behind my character. I will go to my library where I have a couple of background images, and I'll just import here a TVG. So this is a Toon Boom vector file directly to my timeline. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my timeline. Here I can adjust the in and the out of my clip, the image that I've imported. When I'm moving something in my timeline, if I'm holding Shift, this will make it snap to the in and the out of other things in my timelines, either panels. So now I'm holding Shift, and you can see it's snapping to the start and the end. So I want this to snap to the end of the panel. Now I've added the layer, I've added the drawing, and now this spans across all the panels in my timeline. Now what I need to do, I need to have this scrolling, a scrolling background, so I can see my character is moving forward. So I'll take my transform tool, I'll select my BG here. It's a pretty big BG. I'll add a keyframe at the start, and then I'll scroll in my timeline to where I want the background to stop, maybe around here, like that, and then I'll just move this over. Now I can check the speed. And now, as Lenny, our lumberjack, is skating across the lake, I can see that the background is scrolling all the way throughout all the panels in my scene. So this makes it a lot easier to do scrolling pans or to have something that's displayed across multiple panels. The other usefulness of these tracks is to be able to import movies. So I will do that on another video track, but I will actually go in File, Import, and import a video or an image as a clip. From here, I can browse and select a movie. On Mac, it can be a QuickTime movie. We support H.264 and the MP4 codecs on the QuickTime movies. We support the same formats on Windows, but on Windows, if you have a WMV, this is also supported on Windows. So you don't need to have QuickTime to import movies if they are encoded with using WMVs. I will import this to a new video track. Click OK. So this will create a new video track where it will import the actual movie. I will move this movie to where I actually want to use this. So this is the figure skating. I'll use my camera view. It's going to be easier to see. So now I've imported a movie, and the movie spans across multiple panels. And I just want to use this as a reference for timing and for posing my actions in my storyboard. So I will take my transform tool. I will make this smaller because I just wanted to use it as a reference. I don't want to hide everything. Move it to the top right corner. I can also change the opacity. So I right-click the clip in my timeline, change clip opacity, lower this a little bit so I can see through the clip a little bit. Now if I go to my timeline, I scroll through, you can say I'm able to see my figure skaters skating and use those as a reference for timing the action that's happening inside the storyboard. So I can adjust the length of my panels or draw the poses of my characters according to the movie that I've imported. I can also modify the in and the out. So I can make this shorter because I don't need this for the whole duration of my scene. And when I don't need it anymore, I can just hide it so I don't see it when I render my scene. Because these will be rendered, if I render a QuickTime, the movie will also be rendered with the QuickTime, any export that I do out of Storyboard Pro. I can also use this, this feature as to rotoscope. So instead of using this as a reference in here, just for the timing in the top left corner, I could actually move this to my video track that's below. Now it's hidden by my background, but if I disable my background, I'm able to see, and I would be able to rotoscope my drawings over a QuickTime movie. Move it back up like that. So you can import QuickTime movies or movies to help for your reference timing. So you have a dance sequence, a song sequence in the storyboard, and you want to make sure you're timing your actions right. You can import a movie with that and use that as a reference. Or if you just want to replace something, so you have a recurring intro scene or a recurring cut scene between two scenes, and you have rendered this and you want to reuse it multiple times, you can just import a QuickTime and put that over scene into your timeline. The next feature I want to show you is the ability to import 3D models inside 2D scenes. So our Storyboard Pro has had the ability to import 3D models for a long time. We support FBX format, Alembic, Collada, OBJs. When you import a 3D model inside Storyboard Pro and you use it in a scene, your scene needs to be set up in 3D because it's a 3D model. Now you can rotate the camera in 3D, you can manipulate everything in a 3D environment. But when you're storyboarding, sometimes you just want to keep it simple, have a 2D scene, and just import a flat image, a rendered version of your 3D model. So what people are doing right now is they will open their 3D model in under the software, they will position the camera, they will render it, and then they will import the image inside Storyboard Pro. Now you don't have to do this anymore. You can do that directly into Storyboard Pro. So I have, for example, here a lake model that I will be dragging to my scene. And this is a regular 2D scene. So when I drag this to my 2D scene, it asks me, do I want to convert this scene to 3D? So use a 3D model in my scene, or do I want to render this to a 2D layer? So I will render to 2D. When I click render to 2D, it opens the render 3D model view. And in the render 3D model view, I'll be able to position my camera, so move my camera around. So I'm just holding Command Shift on the Mac. This would be Control Shift on Windows to rotate the view around. So this is the same key combination that I would use when I'm working in the stage view inside Storyboard Pro inside a 3D scene. I can use the slider to move the camera closer or farther, and I use the space bar to pan the view around. I can also change the focal length, so if I need to use different type of lens for my scene, in here I'm just going to use a 50mm lens. And once I'm happy with the view that I have, the point of view, I will click render to scene. This will render flat image of my 3D model that I will be able to use in my 2D scene. And now I can position my character inside over my 3D background. So it's, oops, I didn't pick everything. There you go. I can move my character over the hole. Once you've rendered your 3D model and imported a 3D model to your 2D scene, if you need to make an adjustment, so it wasn't the right angle in the end, you need to modify the angle a little bit or pull back the camera, you can actually modify this after the fact. So I can select my layer here, and you can see that the layer here is purple instead of being gray, because this is a rendered 3D model. I will right-click the layer, and I'll select Update Model Position. When I click this, this opens the Update Model Position, so it opens the same window as before. It already has the same position that I set before in that scene. Now I'm able to, let's say, pull back the camera or just move the camera a bit, adjust, render to scene again, and this will update the image that I have in my scene. So if I need to modify the position of my 3D model, modify the way it was rendered, I can still do this after it's been rendered by just right-clicking and updating. So you don't have to go back and forth between software, find your 3D model, find the position you use when you rendered. No, you just have to right-click the layer, update model position, and it opens the viewer with the same position you used in the scene. The next big feature that we have in this version is the improvements to the brush tool, the vector brush tool, to be more precise. So the vector textured brush tool, we have improved the texture engine so that the texture engine now is the same for the vector texture tool than the bitmap brush. So I have many parameters now that I can play with to, so let me find my brush here. So I have all the same tips, all the same brushes that I have for a bitmap layer, but that I can use on a vector layer. So if I take this one, for example, and I open the advanced properties for my brush. So this is a textured vector. I can select between solid vector or textured vector. And in here, I have all the different tips that I can use for this brush. If I don't have the tip in the software built in the software that I want to use, I can actually create my own and import a new tip. I will just select that one tip here. And in here, like on the bitmap brush, I can adjust the spacing of the tip, add some random size, some random angle, some random spacing to have my brush look like a more natural looking brush or a bitmap brush. So now I have the quality of a bitmap brush. So if I draw something here, I really have the quality of a bitmap brush, but it's a vector brush, which means that I can select each individual strokes and I can modify them, move them around, scale them, rotate them, skew them, whatever I want, even change the color as I would on a vector, normal vector. So I have the quality, the look of a bitmap brush, but I'm using an actual vector. This also allows me to, when I select the black color right here, this will also allow me to reshape my lines. So let's say I draw a straight line here, I want to use for his nose. I have a new tool called the Centerline Editor that will be able to use to reshape the line after it's been drawn. So like I can do on a pencil line, but this is a brush line, I'm able to reshape, change the shape of the line after it's been drawn, even if it has a texture. So the texture will also be modified as I modify the vector. And this is really a brush stroke. So it has a vector envelope with a texture inside. And with the new tool here that we have, the Centerline Editor tool, I'm able to modify that brush. So after I've drawn with a vector texture or not brush, I'm able to modify, make small adjustments to the line. So if, let's say I want to modify a smile here, make it a little bit bigger, I can select my line, make it bigger, and I'll move the teeth. And this is something that you wouldn't be able to do on a regular bitmap drawing. You would need to erase the line and redraw it to the shape that you want. You cannot just modify the line. So you have the quality of the bitmap brush, but the advantages of the vector brush. Now, other things that we've added in the software, just a small tweak we've done here is we've added the ability to merge down a layer. So in the past, we could only merge selected layers, but now I have the command that's called merge down. So whenever I'm drawing inside the software, for example, with the character here, I have the beaver layer, the Justin shadow, and the matte, because this is Justin Beaver. I can merge these layers together by pressing Command E, and it will take the top layer and merge it down with the layer that's below, and it will preserve the name of the top layer. So I'm merging again, Command E, which would be Control E on Windows, and this is merging the two layers together. So I don't have to go and select the layers. I can just, while I'm working, quickly merge layers together by using that little shortcut. So this really makes, this is a small tweak that makes working in the software just a little bit faster. Another thing we've done, another great tool we've added to this software is the stamp tool, the stamp brush. So if I go to my scene here, I don't want to see this video, let's make this smaller. All right, so I'll go to my scene here. So we had in the past what we call the dynamic brush. So in the brush tool, you were able to create dynamic brushes from drawings inside the software. Now we've improved that a lot in this version of the software, and we now made a tool of its own. So now it's called the stamp. So I have a tool here called the stamp tool, and this, like the dynamic brush, allows me to create a drawing. So I create a drawing inside Storyboard Pro, a vector drawing, and from that drawing I can create a stamp. And it can be a single drawing or a cycle, an animation cycle. In this case, I've created a stamp from a tree. It's a bit small, make it bigger here. So I can reuse that to quickly, put trees wherever I want inside the scene. Now, this dynamic brush or the stamp now is pressure sensitive. If I go in the properties here, I can adjust the minimum scale. So when I'm drawing with a Wacom stylus, if I press harder, it will be bigger. If I press lighter, it will be smaller. So this is now pressure sensitive. And this is great, for example, if I'm using a snowflake right here. So I've a couple of drawings. I have 5 different drawings. And what I want to do is I want to modify, make this pressure sensitive. So when I'm drawing, I will have different sizes of my snowflakes. I can add a little bit of random size a lot of random angle, a little bit of random spacing. And actually, I will increase the spacing because I don't want the snowflakes to be too close together. I can just use this and stamp this everywhere in my scene. So maybe I make it smaller here, and I just click and I drag around, and this will put snowflakes everywhere in this scene. So it makes it very easy to reuse or to do some snow or some rain over a scene. So this is great for that, but it's also great for cycles. So I have a cycle here that I created. No, I didn't create it, sorry. Genevieve created it because it's really too nice to be created by me. I don't have that talent. And I can use this to stamp the run cycle. So I have a couple of drawings. It's made out of 4 drawings. I stamp this across. Now I'm stamping this across the same panel. Let me undo this. I will do that across multiple panels. So I will go to the next panel here, and I will stamp this on the next panel. Now I don't see what's happening on the previous panel. If I want to see what's happening on the previous panel, I will turn on the onion skin. When I turn on the onion skin, I'm not able to see what's happening on the previous panel either because I have the background that's hiding everything that's behind. So what I do is actually I will turn on the onion skin, and this is a new feature in this version. And I have this button here, which is show selected layer only. So when I turn on the onion skin, it will only show the selected layer across from the previous and the next panel. The layer has to have the same name on these different panels. So as I go through my panels, I'm able to see what's happening before and after. It really makes it a lot easier to see. Oh, and I have all my snowflakes on the layer before, but this really makes it a lot faster to see, or a lot easier to handle the onion skin and see what's happening before and after on the selected layer. Now coming back to the stamp tool, what's great about this one is on top of all the parameters that we can set for the randomness and the size, pressure sensitive, I can also easily flip a drawing or my stamp. So this run cycle sometimes is running from left to right, sometimes it's running from right to left. I can easily just flip it by clicking on this little button here. So I don't have to create 2 cycles, one that goes from left, and one that goes from right. I have 1 cycle, and I can easily flip between directions. I can also flip him upside down if ever he's running on the ceiling. Now, when you have created all these stamps, one thing that you want to do is you want to be able to share them with your colleagues that are working in the same project that you are. So you have the ability to export those, export brushes, and import brushes. So you can select your brushes, export them, and then import them on another system so that everybody is using the same stamps across the production. So going back to small tweaks that we've did to the software is we've added the ability to have, let me turn off my onion skin right here. We've added a tool inside Storyboard Pro, which comes from Harmony, so the polyline. So you can now use the polyline inside Storyboard Pro to make some drawings like this. This is a tool that we had in Harmony for a long time, and a lot of people were asking to get this into the software, so we've added this to Storyboard Pro version 6. Now, before I go on, I don't know if there's any questions that have been showing up.
Yeah. So there's one question coming from Mark, and Mark recently downloaded a trial, and he's asking, I've been using a trial version, and the vector brush, non-textured, will not preview as I draw. Only after releasing the pen does it show. Wondering if anybody else has reported similar experiences.
So actually, I would encourage you to contact the support department, see what's happening, because that is not something I've normally see. Maybe it's an issue with the video card drivers, or maybe there's a preference that's turned on, but you should be able to see the preview as you're drawing with your brush. All right. So other things that we've done inside this this version of the software, we've also improved the collaboration aspect inside this version. So let's say you're working on a production and you're working with editors. What often happens is that once the board is finished, is locked, you take the board and you move it into the editing phase to build the animatic. While the editor is working on the animatic, it might happen that you have retakes to do on the drawings. So what will happen is we will have the editor working on one version of the board on his computer, doing the animatic, changing the timing, and then you will have an artist that will make some changes to some drawings based on the feedback from the director. At one point, you need to merge the drawings from the artist with the board from the editor. And if I open a second instance here of Storyboard Pro, and I will go and I will open a copy of this project. There we go. And this is the retakes one. And what happens is in the past, you could merge entire scenes between projects, but what would take all the scene that you select, merge the whole scene, including the timing. So if the editor had changed the timing in his board, he would lose the timing based on the changes that the artist did on his copy of the project. One way that people would work is they would copy paste the drawing from one project to another, but that can be kind of time consuming. So in here I have this version of the scene. If I go back to my board that I've been using right here, so I've got this scene here where I've already animated, timed the animation in here. And you can see that the panels in here, they have all a duration of 19 frames. If I go to my original, to the one that's been worked on the artist, where he's doing retakes to the drawings, these panels were 2 seconds long, not 19 frames. And now the director asked for a retake here. He wanted to have the lumberjack bald. They shouldn't have hair. When he loses his hat, he also loses his hair. So the artist made a modification. Now, as you can see, this panel here is yellow. This is because we have the storyboard track changes auto tracking mode enabled. So whenever I make a change to a panel, this will flag the panel as modified. So if I go to another panel, any panel, like this one here, I zoom out and I add something here. So maybe my brush a little bit bigger. Something fell into the water there. This will be, can I turn off the auto tracking mode? Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's make sure that auto tracking mode is turned on. Make a modification, and when I do the modification, the panel gets labeled yellow, so it shows that there was a modification done to that panel. I will save the project. I will go back to the one that the editor is working on with the for the animatic, and I want to import the changes. So I'm going to go to project management, use the merge and replace. So the merge and replace already existed in previous version of Storyboard Pro. I will have to save my project before, but we've added a couple of options here at the bottom to help you merge drawings without affecting timing. So I will go into my retakes project. So I will open the retakes project. It will list all the scenes in my project. And actually, I don't want to bother to select which scenes that I make modifications into the retakes one. I'll just select all the scenes, but I will make sure that I will have the option here called only merge modified panels, track changes. So it will only merge the panels that have been modified in the other copy. I want to replace the artwork only. I don't want to modify the timing that is set in this copy of the project. And I want to preserve the transformation in this copy of the project, in the master project. Then I'll hit merge, and it will only bring back the 2 panels that I've modified in the other version of the project. There we go. So I've got my panel here with the splash, and I have the other panel here with the bald lumberjack now. And you can see that I didn't lose the timing. So the timing stayed the same. I didn't lose the timing that I had on those panels. So this makes it a lot faster to collaborate between editors and artists when you need to bring back changes that were done by the artist while somebody else is working on editing on the timing aspect. You can import those drawings as long as you turn on track changes. If you just go copy and just make a small modification with track changes on, it will flag those panels as modified. Now, another way that we've improved the collaboration or the reuse aspect in this version of software is the ability to, let me get rid of the figure skating here, is the ability to create templates out of multiple panels or multiple layers. So in previous versions of the software, you could only create a panel from one template, from one layer or from one panel. You could not create a template from multiple layers or multiple panels. And we've changed that in this version of the software. So if I go to my reuse folder here, I will select some panels in my timeline, and I will drag those to my library. And when I drag and drop to my folder here, I can see I have 8 panels selected. So it really creates the panel, the template using all the panels that I had. After I've created, actually, I should have renamed that one. This is my intro scene, 02. And I can reuse all of those panels, including the camera movement, either in this project or in another project. I will just drag this between panels in my timeline, or I could do this as well from my thumbnails view. When I drop it, it will recreate all the panels and bring all the drawings and also the camera move. So now it makes it a lot faster to reuse panels, reuse artwork, or share artwork across productions. This is also a great way to, let's say you want to archive versions of your scene. So you're working on your scene, you're making modifications, and you want to preserve a copy of the scene as it is before you make a change. Some people, what they will do is they will make a copy of the scene and they will move it at the end of their project. But now you can actually just create a template and bring it back later if you need to go back to that original version of the scene. So that's another great feature, another great change we've done in this version of software. Yes, and if you have any questions, just type them into the chat or question section of the GoToMeeting, and Desi will let me know if there's any questions that come up. Is there any questions, Desi? No questions? Oh, great. I'm doing a very good job explaining all those new features, I guess. So some smaller changes we've made to improve the workflow for the artist inside Storyboard Pro. So we've made it possible now to change the mode of the perspective tool. So if I go, let's say, to that scene here, and I take my perspective tool, I need to select a layer that has vector artwork. I select my perspective tool, and I go to my tool properties. I see I have a new button here, which I can change the mode the perspective tool will work from. So in the past, in previous version of Storyboard Pro, in 5 and before, the perspective tool was always in lattice mode. And in the version 5.5, we changed this to being a perspective mode. So when it's in perspective mode, if I make a selection and I move a corner, it really adds perspective or fakes the perspective inside the drawing. So you can see that as I move this up, the shelves here are moving farther to show that I'm kind of adding perspective to that layer. If I go in lattice mode, instead of adding perspective, it will just stretch the drawing. So I'm just pulling the corner here and I'm just stretching the drawing. You see that the shelves, they don't move as I'm faking a rotation of this drawing. It's just stretching the drawing. So if you want to use lattice mode or perspective mode, you have this available directly inside the tool properties of the perspective tool. Another thing that we've made, another small enhancement is, let's say you're doing a blur. So I have this character here that's being pulled very fast, and I want to show the speed by adding a little bit of blur to that layer. So we've added directional blur in version 5.5, but now in version 6, what we've done is, let's say I select those 2 panels here, Command Shift, I right click, I want to do a little bit of directional blur. I'll be able to change the angle of the blur using a small widget here. So I'll be able to see what the angle will be for that blur. So in the past, I just had to know what angle to type in. Now I can actually just use a small wheel to select the angle I want. Click OK, and this will apply the directional blur. So it makes it just a little bit faster for you to do the directional blur without having to think about all the maths behind and what angle you're going. So there you go. My beaver is flying very fast. Other things we've done more for the animatic aspect of the software. As you've seen, I have the ability now to reorder tracks in my timeline. So I can do that on video tracks, but I can also do that on audio tracks. So if I select an audio track, I can move the track up or down, or I can use the buttons inside the toolbar right here, the clips and track toolbar. The other thing that I can do is I can rename the track. So you may have noticed that this is called music, sound effects, sound 3. So I can label the audio and the video tracks to show what content is all on those tracks, so I don't have to try to guess. So if I want to just solo the music track, I know this is a music track. I can just solo this track, so now I will not hear the other tracks. And then when I'm importing new sounds, if it's sound effects, I know I will be importing this to that layer. This had been a very, very popular request that we've had, so we've done this in this version of the software. Another thing we've made is the ability to search for sound. So let's say display the sound name here, and I'm looking for a sound. I can right-click and go find sound clips. I'm looking for bamboo. I click next, and this will show all the sounds that have this in their name. If I need to find a sound, I know the sound is somewhere close to a specific frame. I can move my playhead, go over there, right-click, find sound clips, and I will be able to find them very quickly inside the software. Other things we've done at the animatic level, but also at the collaboration. That's a very difficult word to say. Collaboration aspect of the software. So when you're working with different departments. So one thing we've added in this version is the ability to import soundtracks exported from an editing software through XML. So we already have the ability to conform changes you've done inside Premiere or Final Cut Pro or Avid by using the confirmation import animatic project. But now we also have the option to import just the sound. So let's say you've made some adjustment to the sound and you want to bring back just the sound into Storyboard Pro, or you've laid out all the sound in an external software. You export an XML from that software, and you can import that directly into Storyboard Pro. You just select Process Audio, you uncheck Process Video and Process Caption, and this will bring back just the audio inside Storyboard Pro. And now, if we're talking about exporting to Harmony, some changes we've done there. So the first thing is we've renamed the function from Toon Boom, export to Toon Boom, to export to Harmony. And so a small tweak we've done in there is that when you export the animatic, so a rendered animatic of your project to Harmony, what it used to do, it used to render one image for each of the panels, each of the frames you had in the software, which was not very helpful once you were in Harmony, because you would see everything as one image in your animatic. So everything is just one image. But now, if you don't have any motion on the panels, so for example, I have a couple of panels here. There's no motion, it's just static images that are held for the duration of the panels. I can export this to Harmony, and then when I will render the animatic for the current scene, and I want to export this to my Harmony folder right there. So when I will export this, instead of rendering one frame for each of the frames inside the panels, it will render one image for each panel, and we'll expose this in Harmony. So one thing is that the export is a lot faster. As you saw, the export was really, really fast. And once I open this inside Harmony, we'll be able to, no, that's not the right, I've reopened the same version of the same scene. I want to open scene 2. I open scene 2 here. Instead of having one image for each frame in my timeline, I will get one image for each panel. So I have the first panel here, and the panel is held until frame 21. So I have a new image here that's held. So this makes a lighter version of the scene inside Harmony. It makes adjusting the timing in Harmony a lot faster as well, and the rendering is a lot faster. So this is really helpful when you're exporting to Harmony. Other small tweak that we've done inside the PDF. So when you're exporting a PDF, let's say I have a, I need to find a scene that has a camera movement. So right here, so we got a little bit of camera motion right there. And when you export this to a PDF, I may want to see, I'm going to go to my stage view. There we go. And this is a 2D scene. There we go. And I have small camera motion. And I want to render this to a PDF. So I've got a new option here that will create a mask around the whole panel. If I go to edit my profile right here, under panels, I've got a new option here called display camera mask. And this will display or render a camera mask outside of the camera movement when I export this. I just want to export the current panel. All right. And I will be able to see a mask that hides all the artwork that is outside of the camera move. This had been also a very, very popular request. Any questions, Desi, so far?
No.
Another small tweak we've done in this version is the ability to display the time code inside the camera view. So when you're working on your animatic inside Storyboard Pro, sometimes when you're working with multiple monitors, actually you will take your camera view, let's say, and you will move it to another monitor, to an external monitor. And when you're doing that, you want to be able to see the time code as you're working inside the software on the same monitor without having to go back to the monitor that has the timeline. So you have a small button inside the status bar, show and hide the time code overlay inside the camera or the stage view. These are individual, so you don't have to show them in both. So I can show it only in the camera view and not in the stage view, or vice versa. So this helps me when I'm working on the animatic with an external monitor to quickly see which time code I'm at in the software. This is also something that had been really, really popular with a demand with the users of our softwares. Other changes we've done to improve the workflow inside Storyboard Pro is actually we've added some new functionalities to the scripting. So in the scripting engine, we've added the possibility to select layers in the script, which was not possible before. So you'll be able now to write script that affect layer selection inside the software. We've added functions also to manipulate markers in your timeline. So I can set markers in my timeline to use as reference. Now we'll be able to manipulate those using scripting, and also colors. So I can set different colors for different panels, and I will be able to use the scripting to query the color of a panel to find and to set the color of panels inside the scripting. So this also makes the production more efficient when you're working inside Storyboard Pro. Any questions, Debbie?
No.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for all the features I wanted to show you today. If you have any questions or you want those features again in action, if you go to our website, so let me bring up the website right here. Under products, if you go to Storyboard Pro, you have the feature page, and there's a new feature button right there that will bring you to all the biggest new features we have in software, with small explanation video, very, very small video, about 45 seconds each. And if you want to see the full list of all the changes inside Storyboard Pro 6, if you go to our docs.toonboom.com under Storyboard Pro, you have the what's new section right here. If you click here, you'll be able to see all the new features that have been added to this release of the software. And then if you have even more questions, you can go to our forum. We have an active community right there. Contact our support department, or if you want to learn about Storyboard Pro and storyboarding, you can go to learn.toonboom.com under Storyboard Pro. And oh, I'm not signed in. I need to sign in first. What do I wanted to do? I didn't want to try Storyboard Pro. I wanted to learn Storyboard Pro right here. So I have some introduction courses to Storyboard Pro to learn Storyboard Pro at my own pace. So we got some great learning resources right there for Storyboard Pro, but also for Harmony. If you want to learn Harmony, you have also great learning resources for Harmony.
So we have a question from Craig, and he's asking, when using an ease in or out, can you put the ease only on the velocity, not the move or scale? Can you edit the bezier in the function editor? So
the ease in and ease out in Storyboard Pro is all the functions are linked together. We're using a velocity curve for the velocity, and this curve is used by the movement, the scaling, and the rotation. So it makes sure that everything is changes together. It's a little bit simpler than what we have in Harmony. In Harmony, you can really play around with each parameter individually. In Storyboard Pro, it's a little bit simpler. But this is a comment that I've heard before, so this is definitely something we have notes about already. Any other questions? No. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending, for watching the new features in Storyboard Pro 6. I hope you like what you saw. And oh.
Wait, Greg is using, yes, I was using it in Storyboard Pro, and I get weird hops at the end.
Okay, so maybe you can contact support. We can take a look at what you were doing and go from there and see if there's something that can be done to help you with your ease in and ease out on different functions. So this webinar was recorded, so we'll have this posted on our website in maybe a day or two. So if you want to rewatch it to see what are new features, you can just go to our webinars section of the website, and you'll be able to see the recording of that webinar. Yep. So thanks everybody for attending, and I'll see you guys soon.